Love it or hate it, school is an important part of everyone's childhood. And of course, the knowledge we gain in our formative years is extremely important. From basic literacy to the scientific method and arithmetic, it's easy to take this information for granted. But if information falls outside of the realm of math, English, science, or social studies, there's a pretty good chance that students aren't learning it, thus creating a major gap in their education. Today, we're exploring the top 10 things they should have taught you in school. Finances. Most schools put a premium on historic knowledge, with little application outside of an academic setting. And while this information can have a strong cultural, social, and emotional value, graduates are often left scrambling for money when they leave high school or university. Recent studies have shown that 70% of college graduates in the United States have significant student loans, and of those students, 45% say that college was not worth the price. If you've already made it through this system, then you're going to need some sound financial skills to get you through the challenges that lie ahead. On top of this, many students come from communities where financial literacy is not treated as an important subject. It seems like common sense that you should have an emergency fund, savings account, and maybe even investments, but in many cases, this is privileged information. Other important skills include doing your taxes, improving your credit score, saving for retirement, and finding insurance that fits your needs. Because low-income communities are both the most vulnerable to financial ruin and often lack financial literacy, many people advocate for after-school finance programs to get students on the right track. Under the right circumstances, students can have their money working for them and not against them. Sustainability. It's no secret that the Earth's limited resources are being stretched to their absolute breaking point. 13% of the world's population, just shy of 1 billion people, don't have consistent access to food. And 1.1 billion people do not have access to clean drinking water. And those are just the basics. Most humans are affected by compromised air quality, a lack of access to nature, and prohibitively expensive fossil fuels. But the question remains, if everyone's aware of these issues, why has no one done anything to improve them? The answer starts with education. If sustainability was worked into school curriculum, students could begin ecologically sound practices at much earlier ages and inform their decisions for years to come. There are many individual changes with a large impact when many people adopt them. These include recycling, composting, carpooling, taking public transportation, and buying products that were grown or produced locally. But beyond this, if students are informed about conservation, they can pressure their representatives to put a greater value on sustainable practices. As today's youth become tomorrow's leaders, it's important that they understand that no one is above their own environment. Our daily choices will define how livable our planet remains in the coming years and decades. For the sake of future generations, it's important to emphasize sustainability in schools. How to network. Networking has become a major buzzword in recent years, to the point that most young people shudder at its mention. The thought of putting on a superficial personality just to climb the corporate ladder is totally abhorrent to many people. And even those who choose to network often don't know how. The truth is, there is no one-size-fits-all method for making a successful career. Of course, there are many cliches that we've heard more times than we can count. For example, have a firm handshake, make eye contact, and make an effort to remember names. But few people get a good job on a handshake alone, meaning that there's a lot more that goes into successful networking. Many people believe that schools should have an expanded career services department that helps with technical elements like writing a resume or a cover letter, email etiquette, and how to interview effectively. These skills are applicable to almost every field and would help students succeed regardless of their talents. In the end, networking is mostly about making organic connections with people in your industry of choice. Most meaningful career improvements come from a friendship or friendly acquaintance. Students would do well to practice clear communication with people they meet in their respective fields. Mental health. It may seem like mental health problems are on the rise all around the world, but in truth, mental health issues are older than humanity itself, and we are only now learning to avoid the stigma. For much of our recorded history, deviant behavior has been considered a reflection of the battle between good and evil. When confronted with unexplainable, irrational behavior and by suffering an upheaval, people have perceived evil. In fact, in the Great Persian Empire from 900 to 600 BC, all physical and mental disorders were considered the work of the devil. This continued into the Middle Ages when victims of syphilis were paraded through the streets as they lost their minds. It has only been in recent years that brave individuals have come forward to speak confidently about their experience with mental illness. Prominent historical figures include Abraham Lincoln, Beethoven, Isaac Newton, Winston Churchill, and Carrie Fisher. As people feel more comfortable speaking about their struggles, it gives society an opportunity to give them resources for healing and self-improvement. Of course, there is a huge disconnect in our current society, and individuals are driven to violent acts on a seemingly constant basis. If we can offer education at an early age and provide support to those who need it, we will all benefit in the long run. Self-awareness. This is a tricky one. We usually identify our existence with our position in society, our friends and family, the needs and desires of our body, and the emotional and intellectual expressions of our mind. Self-awareness is about learning to better understand why you feel what you feel and why you behave in a particular way. Once you begin to understand this concept, you then have the opportunity and freedom to change things about yourself, enabling you to create a life that you desire. It's almost impossible to change and become self-accepting if you are unsure as to who you are. Having clarity about who you are and what you want can be empowering, giving you the confidence to make changes. Self-awareness is important because when we have a better understanding of ourselves, we are able to experience ourselves as unique and separate individuals. We are then empowered to make changes and to build on our areas of strength, as well as identify areas where we would like to make improvements. Self-awareness is often a first step to goal setting. Self-awareness is being conscious of what you're good at while acknowledging what you still have left to learn. This includes admitting when you don't have the answer and owning up to mistakes. In our highly competitive culture, this can seem counterintuitive. In fact, many of us operate on the belief that we must appear as though we know everything all the time, or else people question our abilities and then perhaps judge us. If you are honest with yourself, you'll admit that really the opposite is true, because whether you acknowledge your weakness or not, everyone still sees them. So rather than conceal them, the person who tries to hide weaknesses actually highlights them, creating the perception of a lack of integrity and self-awareness. How to choose a career. As we've already discussed on this countdown, school doesn't always prepare us for the world outside of an academic bubble. A huge contributing factor is that many students don't know how their interests will translate into a full-time job. Thus, they're not sure what to study in order to achieve such a vague dream. A good first step is to take account of the things you enjoy and get a concrete sense of what jobs are available that fit your interests. Then take into account the skills you need for those careers. The skills you need to garner to get from point A to B are your short-term goals. Work towards these goals and never forget what your values were in the first place. Beyond this, it's essential that students find a balance between a job that will support them financially and a job that will invigorate them and keep life interesting. Anyone in today's job market knows that balance is hard to find, but with enough perseverance, it's abundantly possible. While some people are lucky enough to just know what they want to do and end up in the satisfying careers without giving it much thought, most of us are not. Many people don't put enough effort into choosing occupations or pick them for the wrong reasons. Maybe they choose careers that seem secure or pay well, then they end up unhappy. The best way to make sure that doesn't happen to you is a well-thought-out decision. How to save a life. Especially if we live in a developed area, it's assumed that emergency medical personnel are never far away. That means that most of us never take the time to learn such simple techniques as the Heimlich, CPR, or how to operate a defibrillator. A British Heart Foundation report suggests that our reluctance to intervene is killing people who are in cardiac arrest. This means that a lack of awareness is literally costing human lives. Instead of treating it as a specialized knowledge set, what if we incorporated basic first aid training into standardized school curriculum? This information would be invaluable. Most of the procedures are not overly complicated, but they stand to benefit millions of people. Other first aid procedures you may not have considered are how to deal with an allergic reaction with an EpiPen, how to clean and treat a wound, and how to splint a broken bone. Each of these is easily doable for an adolescent, and yet we put this privileged knowledge in the hands of a select few members of our society. We can improve this by putting pressure on our elected officials and school systems to include mandatory first aid training in schools, either during school or as an after-school activity. The decision could save lives. Logic and reasoning. The rationality of the world is what is at risk. Too many people are taken advantage of because of their lack of critical thinking, logic, and deductive reasoning. These same people are raising children without the same skills, creating a whole new generation of clueless people. Logic is in some ways the most critical tool we can learn because it gives us the key to finding truth in all successive information. That is to say that a sound logic helps us differentiate legitimate fact from an individual twisting the truth for personal gain. This, in turn, allows us to make intelligent and informed decisions, regardless of the topic. Of course, there are already certain logical elements in school curriculum. Some would argue that the analytical intelligence required for a standardized test exercises a form of logic. But logic goes far beyond which bubble to color in on a quiz. If we can understand basic problem solving, we will be much more capable in every aspect of our lives. And most people don't learn this information until it's too late, leaving them vulnerable to charlatans and manipulative forces in the world. Even the most basic crash course in logic and decision-making would benefit the world for generations to come. Saving for retirement. All too often, people entering retirement do not place enough emphasis on personal planning to ensure they maximize their opportunities. So take the time now, at an early stage in your planning process, to think about the choices you have about how you would like to spend your time during retirement. Do you want to volunteer at a local hospital? Take up that hobby you were always interested in, but never had the time to start? Go back to school and pick up a few special interest courses? Start your own business? Travel around the world? Buy property in a warmer climate and spend the winter months there? At the end of the day, your choices will drive the financial circumstances that must be met in order to achieve those goals. Beyond this, there are technical specifics of which account makes sense. Do you need a 401k, Roth IRA, government bond, or savings account? These questions are best answered by a financial professional, who could make their services available to schools on a part-time basis. Repairing your home. Whether you have plans to sell your house or live in it for the rest of your life, it is essential for all homeowners to carry out repairs and regular maintenance. Minor fixes can help you prevent serious problems in the future. Major components of the home, such as heating and plumbing, need to be monitored on a regular basis. They have a significant effect on how comfortable you can be in your home, and replacements can be costly. If features of your home are no longer efficient, they may need to be replaced to reduce energy consumption and monthly bills. Routine maintenance and upkeep maintains the appearance and comfort of your home, along with helping to maintain or increase its value. A home is a special investment, and maintaining it helps you protect it. Repairing and maintaining a home costs less than waiting for problems to get worse. Home repairs are necessary for safeguarding your general well-being. By inspecting your home regularly, cleaning and repairing it, you will have the assurance that your family is safe. Keep fire hazards at bay with professional chimney maintenance and test smoke detectors to ensure that they are functioning properly. Repair all electrical issues, such as malfunctioning electric appliances and exposed wiring. Prevent the risk of falls by making sure that your floors are intact. Lighting also plays a key role in home safety by improving visibility and dissuading trespassers. Make sure that all your lights are in working condition. Of course, these repairs extend to our cars and personal items as well. There is a huge emphasis on intellectual knowledge in school, but it can be dangerous to neglect practical knowledge as well. Thanks for watching this top trending video. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe, and feel free to check out some of our other content.